All right. Welcome to the Ultra High Net Worth Clients Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Broadhead. We started this podcast as a way to create a central resource of the best financial advisor practical and tips shared by the most outstanding financial advisors and wealth managers in the industry, of which our guest today is definitely one. These outstanding wealth managers agree to be on the show and provide a ton of value for free, all in the hopes that our audience might learn from their words. My father was an advisor, and financial advisors are the main clients we serve. So my marketing agency's mission is to help every financial advisor grow their business in an effort to help the world become more financially secure. Today, we have the rare pleasure of talking with an incredible financial advisor and wealth manager, Vincent Van Doorn. Vincent, can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Chris.
My pleasure.
I'm excited to be on this podcast. I'm Vincent Van Doorn, born in the Netherlands, moved to the United States, worked for 25 years for the big financial institutions on Wall Street. And in 2013, I started my own wealth management boutique. And that's something that I've been doing with great joy since then.
Awesome.
That's
Okay, cool. Lot to dig in there. So what made you across the pond and leave the lovely Netherlands, which is a beautiful country? I've been there many times. What made you? What inspired you to try to find greener pastures, so they say?
Yeah, I was working in the Netherlands. I was a consultant for Anderson Consulting, IT related. But in the past, I had always had my eyes on New York City, and I'd been there when I was a student for a couple of years, and I was very excited about the environment and the intellectual challenge to go there and join the United States, and especially New York City. So yeah, at one point I packed my bags and I flew to New York City and looked around and see if I could find something that would fit my dreams. So I got into contact with a Dutch bank. Of course, it's easier to use your connections and your background. And it landed me a sales job, an institutional sales job in finance in New York City for ABN, which is a Dutch bank. And that's when it all started. So this
Nice.
is early 90s where things were really changing a lot. I mean, at that time, we didn't have all the internet and the information and the data that we have today. So the markets and the local fund managers would rely a lot on local knowledge, local European knowledge, and the contacts. And there was a lot of value that you could add as a salesperson there.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So, was it hard as a non-U.S. citizen to find a job in New York and to be able to stay in the U.S.? Was that tricky in the 90s?
Yeah, well, Chris, it's basically the same for everyone. If you want something bad enough, you'll make it happen. And that's I wanted it very badly. So my first contact was, who are you and what are you doing? And you don't have any, a lot of knowledge and background in finance, which I didn't. I had studied business administration, but my background was consultancy. So the first job that I took was for a very low wage. And I said, okay, if I'm successful after a year, we can make this more permanent, and that's how it rolled. So you have to take the risk, but if you want something bad enough, you'll make it work for yourself. I was able to convince them that I was adding value and successful, and so they kept me on the payroll, and eventually, they made sure that all the paperwork was in order as well. And then as time goes by, you progress into the system in the United States, and then you go from 1 year, 2 year green card to a passport.
Wow. Okay. How many years did that take? Just out of curiosity.
I think probably something like 7 years. You go through a process, since you never know when you want, if you want to go back or if you want to stay. I wanted to stay. I wanted to make as my
Mhm.
home, work as my home.
Yeah. What was it about New York that so inspired you to become relentless in order to live there?
Well, there are several things, Chris. I mean, New York is of course a city where everybody goes and wants to make something. So you're competing with the most ambitious and smart people that are out there. That was a challenge for me that I wanted to take on, definitely. It was every day was a challenge to get to where I wanted to go. So the learning curve was super steep, but you also have lots of people. If they think that you're something promising, they will help you and teach you. And I was able to learn a lot in a very short time, Chris. So New York
Mhm.
is on that respect was something very different from the Netherlands, where you don't particularly have that international feeling and concentration. All that want the same thing.
Mhm. Yeah, got it. Yeah, I'm always curious, kind of the differences between the systems in the EU and the US. Do you think, I'm not trying to say one's better than the other, but do you think one, the US, it just offers more opportunity, less red tape, it's faster? What is the draw?
Well, in a city like New York City, where by definition you have a lot of immigrants and people from outside New York City to come to a place and to compete. I think the overall cultural difference is that no matter what your background is or where you're coming from, if you are able to show that you are doing your job and you're doing better than what they expect you to do, you have a chance to stay there. Uh, and that's a big difference. I think overall, I think we all know that the culture in America is more of risk taking and accepting failure as a lesson, and not as a failure per se.
Mhm.
So it's a very
Yeah.
positive risk taking culture. And I think, that would fit it quite nicely with my character and what I wanted to do.
Oh, okay. Is failure and risk taking, is that not as common, not as accepted, um, not as easy to do in maybe the Netherlands or the EU as a whole?
Well, it's a cultural difference. Of course, there are pockets of entrepreneurial thinking, but I think, as a culture overall and generally speaking, in the United States, it's much more profound. And if you have a business and you fail a business and you start all over again, people will view that as a lesson uh,
Mhm.
to do the next time. In Europe, I think at the time, definitely when I left, that's something that if you would start a business and you would fail, it would be very tough to do this again tomorrow.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
it's just
Yeah,
a little difference.
yeah. I have no factual backup for this, but I've heard multiple people say it. Behind every millionaire, I assume in the U.S., there's on average, six bankruptcies.
Yes.
So it's
Well,
like
I mean,
they took some shots.
yes. Well, in terms of starting businesses and looking at and that's part of the investing as well, is that most businesses fail. So what we read and what we talk about and what we see in the newspaper, the headlines, is just the top of the iceberg. The successful people, but behind that's probably 80% of failures.
Mm-hmm. Right. Awesome. So you followed your passion. You became relentless. You showed up in New York. You're like, I'm not leaving until they say I can stay.
That's correct.
And
Yes.
you found a great gig, and learned a lot from it. We're and then in 2013 you went independent. What did you learn during your time like with what bank was it?
Well, I worked for several banks.
Several banks.
The last bank I worked for was Société Générale, was French bank. These guys were doing a lot in derivatives. They have very smart people working for them. They're pretty good in France in educating the mathematicians, and therefore applied a lot of these things to their work. I learned a lot, not only from the people that I worked with, but of course I started to read a lot of great examples. So yeah, in a very short time, I was almost a fanatic in absorbing all kinds of legends, from Charlie Munger to Warren Buffett to Soros. And Soros, by the way, was one of my clients during my time in New York City. And Scott Best,
Cool.
now the current treasurer, was a client of mine. Not that he remembers me, but I remember him. So you would deal with these people. They were very smart. They were very well educated. So you needed to be at least try to be as close to what they were doing in order to make a success.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it's both. I'm standing on the ship of legends, of whose books I read and absorbed, and some of it I apply to it in my daily life today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awesome. So, mm, what inspired you to go off on your own in 2013 and start your own practice?
Yeah, it was 2010. I think we were living in New York and being successful and working in finance means getting up at 5 and try to be in the office at 6:15 and start your day. So you can do this for a very long time. And 2010 was a year where a lot of things, negative things, happened in the market, and a lot of investors' money was lost. I thought it was time for me to branch out and do something else. So I took a little bit of a break, and then people kept asking, "So what are you going to do? We have some ideas, and you're good at this. Can we start something?" The idea was really for me to invest my own money, and I wanted to do it in a way where my capital would be protected. And I thought, and that might have been a good or a bad idea. I thought that all the knowledge that I had obtained during during the 20 years that I worked there, I could do a good job. And I wanted to do it in such a way where I didn't pull any money, I didn't take any big risks, and it was more of like conserving and protecting my capital. So that's where I started. And then, so I started with my own capital, and I had we put together a team where I thought we could use algorithms to what is like, today they call that artificial intelligence, but in 2014 that was a term that was not used. So we use algorithms to score ideas and pull in all kinds of data that we can analyze without having to employ too many people. So that was the idea, and we did that. I have a great companion who is very smart, and he is very, very handy with writing code. So we put together a program and made a model, a quant model, which we started to invest first with my money, and then a friend came, along and said, "Hey, can I join you?" It's a little bit like the classic story. You want to start a small candy shop, and then you get more and more people want to join you, and then we branched out to a bigger audience. But most clients, the first clients, are all family and friends.
Okay.
So yeah, that's and at the time the idea was really to try to save and protect the money and make sure that we were not one of those headlines where we would blow up or we would lose money, big amounts of money, or have nothing left to play.
Awesome. So would this be considered more of a fund, or is this like active wealth management?
No, so the idea is for funds is the pooling of money. So we only do separate accounts. So we wanted to make sure that whatever we did, that we wouldn't be able to transfer cash out of the accounts, etc. So we only have the power of attorney to trade for a client in their account, in their name. We cannot transfer money from that account to our account or other accounts. So it's very well protected, and we use a platform on international brokerage, which is a global platform listed on the NASDAQ. So a client would open an account at the brokerage. It's your own separate account, and then you give us the power of attorney to trade. And what we have done is that our model automatically picks the assets in the account and then allocates the ideas that the model is generating. So that's one of our strategies. Now, throughout the years that I've been busy, we've worked with clients that wanted maybe a different idea than our model was suggesting. So we started a qualitative strategy, is where we work together with the client with ideas. Some of the ideas that we say no, most of the ideas we say no to, and some of the ideas are actually very good, and put them in a separate account. And then what we do is around that we build a portfolio specifically for that client to make that portfolio grow. So we now have sort of two strategies. So we've grown from like a quant only, completely automated, to finding ideas in the market and put it in the portfolios on the qualitative side.
Great. And how do you find ideas? How do you stay?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Chris. I read a lot. I read a lot of books. I read the headlines, and I have. I must say, when I was working at the New York in Wall Street, there were some things that I could clearly see that were changing. And then you would go out to the fund managers and hedge funds, and you would pitch the idea, and then most of the times you were met with disbelief, or this is not going to happen. One of those ideas, probably in the 90s, was OM Group, and in Sweden, all the markets were at that time open cry, so people would come in and trade by shouting. OM Group was the first company in Sweden that became fully electronic. And people were saying to me, like, yeah, this is never going to happen. How is this going to function? And this is the 90s, remember? But you had, I clearly saw these things way before other people would see, except, of course, the guys that were doing the actual work at OM Group, and they knew exactly what they were doing. So what you see is sometimes you have ideas where you take the long view, and then the more resistance you get from the buy side or the fund managers, or it's actually I get more convinced about the idea and that it's going to be successful. Now, of course, let's say 15, 20 years later, all the markets are electronic, and there's not a single guy that's shouting anymore in most places, right? So the same thing happens with technology, with some ideas where you would use the Bayesian theory by looking at documents and the software would start to understand what the document was about. Again, here we're way ahead of the curve, and this is way before AI. You have AI agents that can understand and read everything now. So these ideas, I think, what I call long view or vision ideas are part of the full portfolio, and we keep digging into it. And sometimes we find them. Most of the time, there's nothing happening. But if we do find them, we go in it, like we are with artificial intelligence right now. Already a couple of years ago, we started to talk about AI. Well, people would say, like, what is that? And now, of course, everybody probably understands a little bit more what this is all about and where we're going. So next to that, we buy super qualitative companies like Hermes, LVMH, Berkshire Hathaway. Those are sort of the anchors to protect your assets. The idea is what you often see is like, okay, but these companies are very expensive in terms of PE or price to revenue or price to sales. But if you hold them long enough and they have high margins, you will start to earn those margins for you, and they will fall to the bottom line. So it's a very agnostic way of looking at the world. So on one hand, we have the model, which is also completely agnostic to value and growth, and just looking, it's more of a protection for the assets. And then there's the qualitative strategy where we look for ideas, vision ideas, and next to that we have super solid companies that protect our assets as well. So we work with clients. This is our idea how we'd like to do it, to set it up. And some clients want to take more risk, and other clients want to take less risk. And we work very closely with the clients, and we sort of like customize, the ideas to what they want. It's always about expectations and what we put in, and hopefully we'll get to the expected value of what the client wants. That's how we run our business, and that's how we find ideas. And it's just a lot of reading. That's the base. That's the basic of it.
Awesome. And how do you find clients? Do you have a specific type of client, a niche that you focus on, or tell me about that?
Yeah, so the client process is we don't have a sales force, we don't have a marketing. We use LinkedIn as a primary tool to communicate. I write blogs when I have an idea, then I publish the blog. But most of the clients came through their own circle of friends or recommended somebody else to us. We're a small company, Chris, so we like to work with just a few clients. If it gets too busy, then I will not have the attention to do the right job. So, yeah, the idea of i-Cthru is to remain the boutique, very client centric, and the clients that we have, they stay. We work closely with them. There's a lot of ideas, and sometimes there's a lot of going on with the client itself. Like the business has a partner that needs to be bought out. We're helping them, trying to solve things on the side. There are divorces, there are tax implications. So there's a lot more going around it other than just finding the great next idea and make money for them. And I kind of like to do that. So it's more like we're not a full hands-on, more of like we are your advisor, we are your friend, and we are aligned with what your goal is and what you're looking for, and we try to work that out.
Got it. Got it. That's awesome.
Yeah,
So you,
the clients need to really understand. I mean, it's a lot about psychological expectations, and also how you react to the certain events in the market. Yeah, and so don't get scared too quickly, or look at the long term. We're not in the business of taking your money and saying, okay, we're going to make 100% on it in 2 years. That's just not who we are, and it's often impossible to do that.
right.
We work very closely with the clients. We tell them what the expectations should be, and of course, sometimes when the markets fall and there's a lot of scary stuff going on, there's a lot to be explained. And focus on a little bit of the longer term is often more better than letting emotions run your daily impulses.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. So you mentioned AI earlier. This kind of big ChatGPT OpenAI deep research
Yes.
capability, which apparently Gemini has had for a month or so, and I wasn't aware of. Um, I haven't had a chance to mess with it. I don't pay $200 a month for the OpenAI version, so I guess I'll try the Gemini version. That I think is free. Um, do you? I guess my macro question is like, what is your thoughts on how AI and machine learning and all this large language model stuff will impact the financial advisory industry and then the world as a whole? And do you anticipate using deep research to, research and find new investment opportunities?
Yeah. Well, Chris, that's a good question. Let me take you back to where we began in 2014. So
Hmm.
AI was not something that there was even a word at the time. But there were algorithms, and so there are about 10,000 companies listed on the exchanges in the United States alone. Of course, you have Europe, but there's differences in databases. So the biggest markets where data is being filed and kept is in the United States. So what you can do, you can actually go into these files and extract all the data from your balance sheets, from your cash flows, from the P&L, and nowadays you can actually read the 10Ks that the companies are filing. So now you have AI, looking over certain words in the statements or the CEO shareholders letters, and you can extract kind of things out of that you can quantify. So what does it mean? What it means in 2014 when we started is that we can do the work at that time already with simple algorithms that would take weeks for analysts to go through, to calculate a return on capital invested, and see if something would make sense. Because, the annual report and the numbers in there are really for tax purposes. But so you need to fine tune and change them a little bit in order to make them right for an investor, to see what makes sense and which company is making more money on the capital invested than others, and are they invested in and investing in that business going forward so they can grow it. So all this is automated. It was already automated with simple algorithms. AI will do much more than that. So what it means is that a lot of robotic work, as we call it, just looking at putting numbers in spreadsheets and throw them out into the future, etc. That's all going to be done by AI. There's no doubt in my mind that since we've already done it for so long, that AI can easily take these jobs over, and it will all progress into very smart allocations in terms of what the client wants. AI tools will develop much faster, but it will always, the only thing that AI probably cannot do is like pick the winners of the next 10 years. That seems to me still something that they might learn. In 10 years times, probably we will be there. But today we still, as a money manager or a wealth manager, and you're picking ideas where you get a lot of pushback. It's almost like an entrepreneur starting to talk about an idea, and everybody says, this is crazy. Like Amazon.com, why do we want to sell books out of a warehouse? These ideas first seem crazy, and now they seem like so obvious. So that's I think there will be, for us in i-Cthru, I can the AI for me is like having 10 research analysts for me, or 100. It's incredible if I can type in questions and I get balance sheets. I can analyze them. I can let them, the AI agent, analyze different companies and come up with the best ideas on financial terms.
Yeah. These are incredibly valuable tools. Whenever I talk to someone who's like, I don't, haven't really dug in yet, I'm like, man, you are in for a world.
No, you gotta simple things. And we're a very small company, so we do still a lot of stuff by hand and by calls and video calls. But you could imagine that if you have a large amount of money and it is pooled into a fund, you have an algorithm written by that follows the best investment strategies of the best guys. You don't need a lot of people, as long as the data. And of course, that's a problem that we'll struggle with. The data needs to be clean, and we're the old adage of garbage in, garbage out. You need to be able to filter that out, but for sure, in today's agents that we use, whether it's ChatGPT or Cloud or Gemini, these are incredible tools already, and they can do so much. And even just your email management is done by them in a pretty efficient way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I'm obsessed, and I super enjoy these tools, and I'm also terrified of them. They keep getting better, and I'm like, At what point does this process not require me?
Well, you can, yeah,
That's scary.
there are already Gemini and Google Video. I forgot the exact name of it, but you can take a piece of text, a book, and you can take a picture or a little video of yourself dancing around in the room, and you can ask, I make a podcast out of this book,
Yeah.
and it will do with your voice in English, Spanish, French, or whatever language. Your voice, it will make a video, and you're done. And it's
Yep.
done. It's done in less than 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So, so a lot of that is scary where we're going. I have no doubt that the advance of AI will have profound changes. If you look, for instance, at the pharmaceutical industry alone, um, the only constraints I see is the physical world. But let's say in drug discovery, it's like, hiring 10,000 analysts. I mean, really smart analysts to do the work for you. So I think and what they've said, and some of the people that are much smarter than me have already said, look, 20 years of research will be compressed into 1 year, and you'll see an acceleration of change. What I don't hear a lot, and that's something we all need to think about, is that Chris, you and I, at one point are absolute. What do we do? And what are we going to? Who's going to pay us? How am I going to feed my family? That's a question that I think a lot more people need to think about. We're thinking about the process of the faster and faster progress of what AI agents can do. And there's no doubt in my mind that 10 years from now, a lot of jobs will be lost, and very efficient things will come out of it. So I'm an optimist. So I think the positive will outweigh the negatives, and we'll set in the guardrails that are needed. I mean, most platforms are already working on putting, like, for instance, cloud, and Anthropic is putting a layer on top of their big language models to check if there's no jailbreak. They call it jailbreak. In other words, that I can type in, make me a chemical bomb or whatever that's being signaled and stopped. So we're working on those things, but we're not really working hard enough, I think, on the ideas of what does it mean to be a human being in 10 years. That's something, where I read a lot about. If there will be something coming up, and maybe it's investable, and then obviously you'll jump on it. But I think it's we've seen, a couple of years ago, we started writing about AI, and then say, this is a big wave. This is going to be huge. So we invested. We were early, in companies like C3.ai and Palantir. But don't forget Google. These guys are doing tremendous work on all kinds of phones. But it takes time. And now, of course, with the latest numbers of Palantir, people are struggling to become a client. So that means that it has become mainstream, and the acceleration of what we're going to see is going to be pretty amazing. I think there's a huge market for that. But we have to think about what we're doing. We have to think about, how hard we run forward. And there's always, a tremendous opportunity to be more productive, or it could be more productive for the world. But, there's always a second and third degree of outflows. In other words, what happens if everything is run by AI? So you can spot the easy targets, for, let's say that you're an accountant and you're doing number work or invoices, how easy is that to automate and produce the books, etc. So all these people that do that manual work, will have to find something else. And that's something, again, I repeat, it's not thought about too much today. And we should think about it really hard, because as you mentioned, it's terrifying for a lot of people, but it's also very useful for us in terms of productivity and in terms of getting ahead with some of the things.
Yeah, that's a great point. Awesome. Well, I could definitely talk AI and investments with you for the rest of the afternoon, but I will respect your time. My final question of our time together is an open-ended question. You can take it in any direction that you like. And that question is, what are you working towards?
Yeah, I'm that's it's kind of like a philosophical question. I don't have a particular goal. I think I walked away from the idea that I wanted to build a big company, or right now I want to help my clients get the outcome that they perceive and that they want. And for me, at the moment, is to find the pleasure of doing that on a day-to-day basis, and find those ideas that other people think are not working or not worth their time, and invest in them. So for me, through my blogs that I write, I hope to communicate and educate and make people think about some of the things that we're doing, and then it's all related to investments. So my goal is really to help the clients get to where we want to go. I don't have, a superimposed goal or a target on top of that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, you are a very smart guy. You're very well read and motivated, and well ahead of the curve on a lot of this stuff. So I anticipate you making your clients and future clients very happy. So want to thank you for taking the time to come on my show today and sharing your time and extensive expertise and really incredible life story. Where can my audience find out more about you?
Well, I think the easiest way is to find me on LinkedIn or i-Cthru.com, the website. Those are good channels to get in contact with me. And also on LinkedIn, you can read some of my blogs, especially if you go back a few years and get the old stuff on AI. You can see how far ahead we were on the curve, sometimes with these vision stocks, and ideas. So LinkedIn and i-Cthru.com. And Chris, I wanted to thank you for inviting me on the show. It has been a pleasure to talk to you, and hope to see you again.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, the pleasure was all mine. I supremely enjoyed our conversation. I think you and I think very similarly, and maybe read a lot of the same stuff.
It's true. Very good.
So, awesome. All right. Well, to everyone out there listening, thank you so much for tuning in, and keep on growing out there, everybody.